Mr. Porres, welcome, the AI adoption whisperer at Logitech. This session is going to be really great for those of you who are hungry for impressive adoption stats and the how behind those. Eric's gotten Logitech to 78%, close to 80% company-wide proficiency certification in just over.
85% now.
Okay.
I came with receipts, Maxwell. I came with
Look at
receipts.
the
80.
old dashboard. See,
Yeah.
Eric's always working, folks. So incredible numbers, no matter what they are. Over 80% is exciting. Logitech rolled out an AI tool that we actually built, ProfAI, so I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about that. But we also will touch on Eric's recipe for, how does this work? And the recipe is actually refreshingly simple. Make it easy for folks to access stuff. Reduce the number of clicks, right? Cancel redundant software contracts, accelerate productivity using GPTs, build AI habits, and that will compound over time. So Greg is back on this stage to facilitate a conversation with Eric to talk about how the Logitech team got there where they are today and what the ROI from that widespread adoption is. Whew, that was a mouthful. Eric, so good to have you. Greg, you're up.
Thank you, Maxwell. Eric, great to see you again.
Greg, likewise. And clearly we both got the hat memo on this
Yeah,
part of
no,
the afternoon.
I heard you were bringing the hat, and so I had to respond. But yours is better. Yours says AI Champions. Mine's a new store in Soho called Saturday Soccer, and I'm just promoting them because I don't want them to go out of business because they sell vintage soccer wear, and I don't think really many Americans could give a shit. So I'm just promoting them. I'll take it off now because I would love the store to stay in business. Great to see you again.
Likewise, Greg. Thank you for having me and for some great discussions today. I've learned, I've taken notes and
Good, good.
and
Well,
learned some stuff. So
we're gonna raise the bar with you and our final guests. Just to remind the audience, if they don't know you, you're the guy that went around and personally trained about 800 people on AI, I think about a year ago or maybe longer. Like you're the guy that basically said, I want to lead this, or I want to be a catalyst for this change. And I think you sort of took it upon yourself to go and just really find those, I guess, early champions. Is that right?
Sure. So I don't want to call myself Gandhi, but it's Gandhi is attributed to saying, be the change you want to see in the world. And so
Mm-hmm.
AI is not new to Logitech. Certainly, it shows up in our hardware, it shows up in our software. But AI as a knowledge working construct for 6,000 people around the world is pretty new. And so my old experience on being an early AI guy back in the early teens in the Martech land, where our founders, a couple of our founders at a company called Rocket Fuel, were AI PhDs coming out of Stanford. I was a CMO of that company, and so I got baptized in the promise and the potential of AI early, and it never left. And so then again, this is not a plug. They didn't invite me on just to say, oh, Section. However, when Section started their AI MBA course, mini MBA course at the
Yep.
end of 2003, it was, that seems like that sounds pretty interesting. So let me take that course, and then the
So
caps.
you got through the application process somehow. We let you in.
Right. Somehow you let me in. Well, I paid to be in, but but in doing that, right, the capstone course in Section's mini MBA says, hey, okay, how do you want to apply the skills that you've just learned over 6 weeks of pretty intense, like hundreds, if not thousands of slides worth of content? And so from that, originally I was going to do, oh, let me use Gen AI for your product development. I was leading an innovation team within Logitech, but then it was literally like I slept on it. I said, no, that's stupid. I want to be this catalyst. I believe I can be this catalyst. I believe I have the skills to be the catalyst and the autonomy and the mastery to do so. So I took, and Greg will say, so you basically stole our stuff. No, I curated, of those 800 slides of information, I curated it down to about 50 that I thought were really relevant and important for our teams based on what I knew from the 2.5 years I'd been at Logitech. Because I had at that point, 2 years, software company I was acquired by Logitech. So And that then set it up. 824 people over the course of 8 months in different
And you
sessions.
went, hold sec, slow
Yep.
down. So you went and sat next to them at their desk or on Zoom or both? Like you were basically
take your pick, and
right.
anywhere I could. I
Okay.
had the autonomy to be able to say, look, I want to go into every place I possibly can. Everyone who's a hand raiser, and including people who are not hand raisers, in terms of passively aggressive hand slappers, and say,
Right.
look, this is coming. And you need to know that this is going to change. Look, I think it
And
was
you kept your day job though. Like you were doing this on the
kept it.
side.
Yep, kept the day
Yeah.
job. This was my side hustle. My
Right.
full-time side hustle within Logitech was to do this. And then, Greg, to your point, then it became more apparent, going from 2024 into 2025. Look, we at Logitech, and I think this is one of the tips that I would put out there, is that if you don't have, now again, does this sound self-effacing? I don't know. If you don't have a head of AI, you need one. And the reason I think you need one now, at least, or at least over the next couple of years, is that right now, AI tends to be highly distributed amongst many people. Well, it's an analytics issue, or in the case of Moderna, it's Bryce, and plus it's someone who comes out of HR, and in these other companies, it's all sorts of different places. The problem with that is that you wind up having 100 people with 1% of influence. In terms of being able to make change, affect change, connect the dots between different organizations. And so it's super important to say, okay, you know what? It's time to get serious. If you're serious about AI, then you need to fund it. And you don't just fund it with seats for OpenAI. You don't just fund it with seats in Gemini. You fund it with at least one person who you give that kind of autonomy to, if they've built up the credibility to do that. It's a two-way street there.
Which worked for you because you became the head of AI for Logitech. You're now the VP of Global AI. Is that right?
Yep, that's right. So yeah, and again, like what might it's different strokes. What might be right for some may not be right for all. But in my case, I could make that claim, and I had the credibility to back it. I built a software company. I've been an entrepreneur. I've been in Martech. I've been on the services side of the business. So I had the right alchemy, if you will, in terms of being able to have the right persona to be an active educator. I have 4 kids, so I've been an educator as well, both for them as well as others.
Yeah, well, just in the spirit of full disclosure, Eric, most agents get 5% of annual compensation, so I'll be calling you. But let's talk about one of the first things you did, which I think was brilliant. Taylor talked about easy access to tools, to AI tools specifically, and you did something in terms of reducing the number of clicks inside of Logitech for your workforce to get access to their AI. Just tell us what you did and what that
Sure.
change was.
No, it's an important change, which is, you either have to meet people where they are, or they will find the easiest path forward to do what they want to get done on their own. And so, prior to my arrival in this role, we did have our own wrapper, and I'd call it a V1 wrapper that was engineering driven, not a lot of UI, UX associated with it, to give people access to a limited model garden. But it required, when I did my first audit, I'm like, guys and girls, it's 11 clicks. It's 11 clicks to get there. And because you have to sign on to VPN, and then you have to remember username and password, and then you have to go through Okta, and then you have to go through this. And like when you actually break it down, it's 11 clicks. And I said, no, this has to be one click simple, because if it isn't one click simple, like what have we learned across consumer experience, right? If it's not one click simple, people are going to go somewhere else. And so what you don't want, of course, is you don't want to have shadow AI creep up to bite you in the ass, because somebody winds up putting some highly confidential, sensitive product material or something that they really shouldn't be in a system that's outside the secure and protected garden that we have. So that was number one. Number one was let's go from 11 clicks to 1. And it made a huge difference. And I could talk about some of the other differences as well in terms of user experience. I would say, Greg, that also for those who are doing this, we have, so we're a G Suite company. So we have Gemini as a core part of what we have, but we also have what we now call LogiQ, and LogiQ is our experience for people to, if they want to, have these private and secure experiences between GPT, AWS, Gemini, other models, but also the interface I control. not just me, it's a small team of people that control it. And so I can take the best of breed of capabilities from, it's not just Claude, it's not just ChatGPT, it's not just Gemini, it could be Sim Theory, it could be AI Box, it could be other companies that are out there that are doing really interesting user experience driven experiences to work with AI that we can bring into the fold. So one example of that, the idea of styles with Claude as an example. Okay, well, let's create a Logitech branded or a Logitech brand voice as a style. So if you're working with AI, you're a marketing person and a professional, guess what? You can both have the custom instructions that you're used to from a ChatGPT experience, and you can have the styles that you're used to from a Claude experience. And you can actually do that, which then gives you the ability to reduce your operating expenses when it comes to other software, unnamed software that is no longer, that is now contractually ended at Logitech, that would otherwise give you the ability to do brand voice content and copy creation as one example.
So I want to go back to that one in a minute, which is how you pay for some of this. And
sure.
I know you have a strong belief around being able to cancel or not renew other software contracts to pay for AI. But I want to first talk about this idea of offering multiple models. Two questions, Eric.
Sure.
One is, do you care which model the employee uses? Assuming they're all in the walled garden, are you trying to direct it to want most of the traffic and usage to one, or is your point of view is, we're going to pay for all these and make them available. We kind of don't care as long as employees get value. They can use whatever they want inside the walled garden.
Yeah, so I care from the perspective of how I look at AI adoption in general. I look at it through these 6 lenses, and you and I talked about this about a month ago, which is consistency, intensity, creation, impact, breadth, and whether somebody has a ProfAI certification or not.
Okay, hold on a sec.
Yep.
Maxwell, you there? We got to capture those 6. Someone's got to say them again, and someone write them in chat, please. Do them again real quick.
Say them in
do it again.
Consistency, which is the days with at least one AI session across, whether it be Gemini, LogiQ, take your pick. So habits beat heroics. Intensity is the amount of work that's pushed through AI. So that's on a conversation, message, and interaction basis. And so one of the bellwether metrics I look at in terms of AI adoption is number of messages per conversation. Because I know that when I started in January, that number was at about 2.97. And so many people within the organization still thought of AI as like Google. Or rather, Google has trained all of us, and before that, Lycos, Alta Vista, others, to treat a search box as a search. You ask a question, you get an answer. It's not Answer GPT, it's Chat GPT. So the more conversations you have, the more iteratively you can work with AI, the better outputs you're going to have. So that's intensity. Creation. Greg, this is something that you talk about a lot, and which has been talked about here as well, which is this notion of being able to create assistants or gems, if you're in the Gemini world, assistant, agent, somewhat interoperable language, but not just for you. So how do I create, right? Like I look at a custom GPT or an assistant as it's almost like a SAS of 1. Fantastic. Bravo. You built something that was helpful for you. Now, think a little bit broader and say, okay, how do I make this impact, which is the impact piece? So there's creation, right? Creating an assistant is one thing. Impact is, will other people, have I created enough value for myself that I can share this with other people? During this session today, and during one of the sort of micro breaks with Taylor's session, I created a gem, which was a prompt builder, because we had already had a LogiQ assistant that I had trained to help people create better prompts. And now the gems are shareable. That's something that became available in Gemini as of last week. Okay, let's apply that same knowledge so that wherever people are in terms of the surface area of AI, they have great resources available to them to make their use of it even better. So we talked about creation, we talked about impact. Breadth is another one. So breadth, which is to say, okay, how do I transfer across context? So whether that means in the case of Google, Docs, Sheets, Notebook, Google Videos, Gemini, active Gemini use in terms of the native application itself, because I think as many people know, or maybe many people actually don't know this, when you work with Gemini within the Google applications, you're getting a watered down version of Gemini. And so you're like, oh, well, I just hit the little button and that's my Gemini experience. Well, no, the actual native Gemini experience is much closer to ChatGPT thinking, or Claude. And so that's the breadth. And then ProfAI, we talked about this too last time, Archilocus, we don't rise to the level of our expectations, we fall to the level of our training. I will take anybody who falls to the level of training, and now it's 85% of people across the world, 46 countries, 142 cities. I will gladly have an experience of a workforce that is role, context, task, output, boundaries, and reasoning trained over those who are not. So
Love
hopefully
it.
that answers the question, Greg, because I think that the point is thinking versus reasoning. I do look at over time, are people starting to use reasoning models more? Because
Right.
that to me then also signals not just that depth of conversation, but it also considers the complexity of the ask, especially
Right.
that given that we have deep research available to us through Gemini and through some other API means. So hopefully that answers the question.
It does, and thank you, Sandra, for capturing that in chat. And I'm sure others did as well. But now here's the tough question, Eric. Aren't you just making it harder for two things to happen? One, the training and upskilling, because you're offering all these different models.
Mm-hmm.
And the second is, doesn't it all this make it harder for you to capture all those analytics? Because now you're looking for that data across these different platforms in terms of their dashboards. You know what I mean? So is the complexity of the additional models that you offer employees worth the cost?
Well, for me, yes, the juice is absolutely worth the squeeze. I definitely consider myself a bit of as a human being, a little bit of a polymath, and so in that way, like I love to cook. I would rather have more ingredients to start from than fewer ingredients to start from, such that I can curate the experience for one set of people versus another. And so there are folks, for instance, like I know, for instance, right now, about 87% of people use Gemini on a monthly basis, 53% use Logic Q, about 45% use both. So there are different reasons and different use cases in which people will work in one system or another. That's okay. But we need to make sure that everybody has a general understanding of what the surface area is in terms of what the potential is, because what you will learn in one place, you may be able to apply somewhere else. And I think that's the other critical learning here, is that like you can never stop learning. I think it was Jeremy Utley who said this a few months ago in one of his podcasts. Use inspires use cases. And so the more things I can throw at you, quite literally, the more ingredients I can give you, well, I have to start playing with the ingredients. And not every ingredient is going to work out to be a hot meal. But certainly the more ingredients I have, the more potential energy I put into a system, which turns into kinetic energy. And to your point, Greg, in terms of like, am I worried about like the instrumentation around who's using what or where and how people are using it or not using it? That's pretty trivial. I mean, it's simple but not easy.
Right.
But it's absolutely worth it, because then what I can do, Greg, is I can look for pockets of either excellence or pockets where I need support. And so for the 115 or so champions that I have around the world, there are some champions who are really, really good at Gemini, who are really, really good at using Logic Q, who are really, really good at creating assistants or writing instructions for assistants. So that's where I want to transfer that knowledge and bring that knowledge to those who need it. So right now we have, and you asked this question earlier today too of several panelists. I have a champions group it's a volunteer organization, like volunteer firefighters. And every quarter I will ask, it's a volunteer commitment. I will ask people, hey, look, is this really what you signed up for? And is it too much? And it's okay if you bow out. But right now, I have people in every major region of the world, as well as in every function, so that there is, at least from a leadership team level, there's at least one person who is an AI champion within their function, and also on a regional basis. So we're not losing anybody, whether they work in Lausanne or Silicon Valley, or in my case, in the Bronx.
Yep. Eric, Leo made a great point about managers who I think are often overlooked, undertrained, or underprepared for change management.
Yep.
What's your take, and what have you done to support managers and or to help them understand what is the level of AI fluency or proficiency inside their team?
So fluency and proficiency is the easy one, is to, and you know that I did this, because in the case of ProfAI certification, it's not a mandate. So nobody has said this is a required like compliance training or like health and safety training. No one said you're absolutely required to do this. It's just a really good idea if you do. And now here we are 125 days later, 125 business days later, and now we're at 85% of people certified. But what I did is I
Not that
built
you're counting or anything. Anyway, keep
not
going.
that
Yeah.
not that metrics matter, but they do.
Right.
And so, but what I did is I built an application using Gemini, using Google App Scripts to say, okay, let's connect the dots between ProfAI certification and our Workday export that looks at every person who rolls up to everybody else. And so when I look out on a manager basis, and then what I do and what I was able to do, Greg, was to federate that knowledge across the leadership team every week, starting at the end of April, whether you loved it or hate it, and it was just data, it was not opinion, it was just data. Here are the top performers at a leadership team level. Here are the bottom performers at a leadership team level. And performance is, look, people have started, but they've stalled. Why have they stalled? So there are some instances where, and so this is a great example, Greg, of working in partnership with people to uncover these truths, where there are teams, there are engineers who build. I am currently speaking to you with an amazing audio DSP that is created as a function of this microphone that I use from Logitech, this 4K camera that I use from Logitech. Regardless of the fact that those teams are more than proficient, right? You could consider them AI fluent, if not native. They still went through the training. Why? Because then they would have a common, like, I understand you. I understand where you're coming from. You understand where I'm coming from. So if someone who is a traditional knowledge worker, who is not a traditional developer of machine learning models for image optimization, we can have a similar conversation about role, context, task, output, boundaries, reasoning, because that applies to everything. It doesn't just apply to generative AI and prompt creation. It applies to everything that you do. Boundaries and reasoning is a super important thing when thinking about model development, what Ed was saying before about reinforcement learning or training, on and on and
So
on.
you think, so hold on a second, I want to highlight this.
Yep.
I have not heard this before. You think that sort of training for prompting, maybe we call it context engineering now, that framework is just a good critical thinking framework and can be thought of more than just a way to interact with AI, but a common sort of framework or language just across the org
Well,
to have productive conversations.
100%. It's systems thinking. It is absolutely systems thinking. And look, if you can't explain yourself to AI, and you can't have AI, and you can't work iteratively with an AI partner, how are you going to work iteratively with a human being?
Right.
Or not
Right.
in the realm of innovation, in the realm of the Schumpeter creative destruction, right? Like we are creatively destroying ourselves right now to rebuild a better company, a better foundation, and a better thing for what we do, which I know is what you're going to get to, because we only have a few minutes left. About like, all right, so show me the money, show me the receipts.
Okay,
Eric.
don't do my job. Okay, I can do it. Uh, but you're right. We're about to talk about that, which is ROI and how do we pay for all this?
Yep.
What are we building? So talk quickly about canceling software contracts. That's a layup for you. And
Sure.
then I want to talk about productivity
Yep.
and what the hell that really means and how that gets converted into something that a CFO might
So yeah,
actually sign off on.
CFO worthy, sure. So look, there's no surprise, right? ROI comes up in every boardroom, and I think the temptation right now is to chase demos. So everybody is thrown, AI is to software as gourmet is to deli. But what we've learned is that ROI really comes in these three different currencies, which is time, money, and momentum. So what does that mean? So right, what are these ROI archetypes? One, there's the efficiency play, where AI eliminates drudgery, right? So, and I went through so we have both an intake form in terms of people that want to start AI projects that are not already covered, and we also have an outtake form. And so the outtake form is like, all right, show me the money, show me what you did. So in one example, there was one project that cut manual review time by 90% that saves teams hours each week. There's a SQL validator assistant that somebody created that reduced validation time by 90%, saving 9 hours a week. An ops assistant saves a team 250 hours per week across teams. So like AI, and in that sense, Greg, AI pays for itself when it takes a day's worth of work and makes it like a coffee break task. So that's the efficiency play. The
Now, hold
quality.
sec, hold, hold,
Yep.
hold sec. I just want to highlight that for everybody. No previous guest mentioned outtake form. I kept asking everybody, how do you prove ROI? Everybody talked about intake forms and standardizing or having a template for, recommending or requesting a project. No one, not that I heard, suggested what Eric just says he does. So I think that's gold, right?
Oh, and
Outtake
you know what,
form.
Greg?
We gotta measure after.
It's important and it's hard to do. Like as when I introduced the outtake form 3 months ago, so some of it was playing catch up in terms of some projects that were already there, and it was a really important forcing function to say, hey, like, what are we actually building here? Does this actually matter? And look, not every project is going to be super successful. Some of it's going to feel like a little vibey, but that's okay, because not every project is supposed to be successful. Like if you're not at least like, it's not move fast and break things, but if you're not breaking something, you're not forcing the change in that you want to see in the organization. So I will happily, Greg, next week, if you want guest posts, like what does the outtake form look like? It's rolled all the way up to company strategy. So we have a one-page company strategy summary. And so everyone has to evaluate their AI project, not only in terms of time saved, dollars saved, whatever it is, but does it actually align with company strategy across one or more levers? So that's number one.
Yes, yeah, we want it. I love it. I love that idea. Okay, so
so one is efficiency,
yeah.
one is quality. So where does AI can raise accuracy and consistency? So for instance, compliance teams using AI to flag errors that humans used to miss. So that's using computer vision AI to be able to do that. So there's an legal assistant saved each lawyer about 5 hours per month. There's a DBA assistant that reduces query times by 85%. So it's the ROI of fewer mistakes. That is a quantifiable value. And then the third one, Greg, so we talked about efficiency, we talked about quality, and now I want to talk about revenue. So where does AI reveal hidden value? So there's one example where we were giving one project was giving sales visibility into pipeline dollars that they couldn't see before. And so this pipeline insight tool improved visibility into deal value with business teams capturing insights of about so that was not only 40 hours of time saved each week, but also millions of dollars in potentially unrealized revenue. So like it doesn't just save time; it can find money that was already on the table. So productivity gains, bottom line contribution, and strategic alignment. That's a really, really important one. Like if you can have a cool project, that's okay. We have a handful of cool projects, but a cool project, to your point, is not going to get the attention of the CFO in a way that alignment with the core principles, core operating principles of the company will.
So what I'm hearing from you, and I heard it from Leo as well, and Ritu, what I'm hearing is the ROIs here. It's obvious. It's going to take a while, and we just need to be a little more patient. Is that kind of what I'm hearing? Like this will. You have these anecdotes, you have these case studies, so that the data is starting to surface. It just takes a while, and we need to be a little more patient. Is that what's going on right now? And all this talk about AI, there's no ROI in AI, is just at this moment in time.
Greg, don't bring up the MIT study. Instead, like what I would do is I would bring up what I shared earlier in the chat, the Oliver Wyman study as an example, as well as others, which is to say that you're absolutely right that it does take time. Change doesn't happen overnight. Many of the pilots that we run, we do try and time box them in some way, shape, or form. 100 days, 130 days, 150 days. But the other thing I would recommend in terms of whoever is left in this, this audience cohort here is like, you have to build it first once yourself. Because if you're going to offload, you think you're going to offload your decision debt to some third party. And that's like, we always used to say, right, you can't fire yourself. That's why you hire consultants. The same thing applies. And like AI, as we know, and we talked about this before, it is you're about to write a whole new blog on it, the truth serum. The truth serum for every organization is just that. AI will expose decision and thinking debt that you either tried to hide or you didn't think you had. But sure enough, boom, it's there. Because just like humans are probabilistic, so is AI. And so we've been going through these deterministic snafus for years, trying to invent solutions to problems that fundamentally are probabilistic. So yes, have a little patience. Number one. Number two, invest in a head of AI or someone in that role who can literally spend 100% of their time thinking about this. It's not a 50% job. It's not a 40% job. It has to be a 100% job. Number two, and then number three, in terms of the dimensions of ROI, productivity gains, bottom line contribution, strategic alignment is also super important, because strategic alignment is what gets the board excited. It gets CEO excited. It gets leadership excited, and it gets the CFO excited, who ultimately either has to pay the bills or not on some of these experiments.
All right, one last piece of advice, Eric, for the audience, for people about to start their journey, the journey you've been on for over a year. One last piece of advice. Whatever you want. It could be personal, could be it can be organizational, could be personal.
Sure. Well, so organizationally, so I'm staring at you from my main screen. Greg, you did this last summer. My second screen over here is my AI screen. I have LogiQ, Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT, Notebook, and Perplexity, and Consensus, and I have this.
Stop bragging. Stop bragging.
No,
okay.
But these are literally the tabs that I have open all the time. And I attribute that to you, because it was otherwise a sort of tabular experience that was pretty weird. So that's number one. And then number two, the advice I always give, it's the number one advice I give. It's everything that I do in training. Before you commit to something with AI, ask AI to be an actual thinking partner with you, to help you improve your thinking about what it is you're about to ask it for. You can always have a second conversation. You actually do get a second chance to make a first impression by having a conversation, iterative conversation with your thought partner.
Love it. Eric, I always learn talking with you, so I appreciate it. Great to see you. Hopefully I'll see you in person next time I'm in New York, or maybe we can get you out to the Bay Area for one of our events out there. Great to see you.
Love to do it. And thank you, Greg, and thank you, Maxwell, as well, for it's been a great session, great set of sessions for today.
Thank you.